Let's talk about that compensation you're looking for.
I would prefer not to talk about the compensation. That's an issue that is on the table. I may have further discussions with my lawyers, and then we may come up with whatever we want to. And that issue is actually not for public discussion. We just have to go to the court. My lawyer only mentioned it, and there is nothing wrong with mentioning it, just to let people know that this is what we may do.
You deserve compensation, don't you?
Definitely. You can't treat me. I mean, do you know what my family has gone through? Do you know how traumatized they are? Do you know how some of my members of my family have suffered because they are associated with me? There are things I wouldn't like to say on this platform, but I can tell you that family members have suffered because they are associated with me. Some of them have to be moved from one place to another on their jobs because of me. And I don't want to personalize issues because they are still doing their work. And by espousing, talking too much about these issues may not be too good for their, in their own, it may not be in their interest. So a lot of trauma had gone on. The only difference had been that I'd always stood firm and assured them that, look, I had done nothing untoward. I don't know how and when it was going to end, but I knew that it would end in our favor. And that was why I granted that interview the first day when I was acquitted. And I said, look, I knew that was how it was going to end, but I didn't know when it was going to end. And I was just thanking Jehovah for it.
I see.
It's been a very difficult almost 5 years of an officer who had traveled around the globe, being on his own, independent, travel around. I said it elsewhere, and I'm repeating, that if we have to go in for about 2 or 3 officers in the Ghana Police Office who, or maybe I may be among the first 5 group of police officers who have traveled most around the world. Teaching here, working here. All of a sudden, I returned from Liberia not 2 weeks before I was arrested, just to go and teach. And all of a sudden, your career collapses, your world collapses, and you are being disgraced. A tag has been placed on you. Nobody wants to talk to you. You lose your friends. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you've saved. 5 years without doing anything, the money will be off. Can you imagine what we have gone through? So when we talk about compensation, it is in order. The state will have to compensate us, either willingly or we'll go to court.
I mean, you tell us that your finances took a hit. How have you survived the last 5 years?
By the grace of God. By the grace of God. And by the support of very reliable friends who believed in me. It didn't matter. Look, some of those friends never asked me, Ben, what happened? They just knew I couldn't have done it, and that was it. They never asked me, how did it happen, what happened? They've never asked me, they don't even have the details of what happened, but they just believe that no. The man we know couldn't have gotten himself involved in any coup d'etat. And thankfully, God has vindicated me.
As we have noted, your reputation took a hit during this trial. Your finances took a hit during this trial. Your career had been almost washed down the drain during this. You would need to recover from all of that. How difficult do you think that recovery will be when you even tell us that people shunned you? People within your circle lost jobs and changed jobs because of you.
Recovery wouldn't be too much of a problem because having lived the same life for the past 4 years or more, I mean, we just continue with that life into retirement. Right now, even the little allowance they used to pay me, they've not been paying for the past 3 months.
You're gonna need a job.
I still, as for jobs, I'll get, because...
You think it will be easy after this trial?
No. Listen, I'll get some job to do. I'll get some job to do. Definitely, by the grace of God, I'll get some job to do. Remember, I was telling people my area of specialty is unique. I did a PhD in human rights and politics. We have very limited people who have PhD in human rights. And maybe that's one of the things that helped me defend myself very well. Because the principles of human rights are the same principles that we hold in law. And therefore, that underpins our legal system. And therefore, I understood what I was standing in for, and I understood how I was going to defend myself, and also with the support of my lawyers. And I thank them for all the sacrifices they've made, where we have to sleep sometimes at 2 a.m., we have to go to home around 2 a.m., just trying to put things together. Recovery wouldn't be a problem because definitely I am a very composed person. I speak my mind. I could be a bit
and
bold
you're ready
enough,
for it.
And I'm ready to go for anything.
Let's talk about the independence of the police, something you have mentioned earlier. How bad is the situation with political interference in the police service?
Kems, I would rather we reserve this particular topic for another day, and I can assure you that if you decide to give me a whole interview on police reforms and the current situation in Ghana, I'll speak to it. But for now, to just make a comment or two on it, I would rather not comment on the current situation. The current situation in particular, I wouldn't.
What do you think about the current IGP?
The current IGP, I'd rather not talk about him, but if you invite me to talk about policing issues and then rope in the IGP's activities, then I'll have a context within which to talk about him so that it will not seem like I'm zeroing in on him.
I see.
Yes.
But there is a context, isn't there? At the time, you say he was in charge of Director of Welfare.
Yes, because you asked me about my welfare at the time, and he was in charge of welfare. And I expected him to do...
And today he's IGP.
Today he's IGP. And
yes.
When he became IGP, at least he hasn't shown any interest in my case. Let me tell you something. At a point in time, I admired the military because they were even allowing a colonel to follow the military colonel to court almost all the time. Almost all the time. Followed him to give him that moral support and other things. Today, that colonel is out. He's been acquitted and discharged. Did I have that benefit? Nobody cared about me. Nobody thought about it. Even at the time that I was arrested, assuming you are in the house with your children, you've been arrested as a very senior officer. And then you make appeal to the police. Look, anybody, because this is a politically inclined whatever, anybody could attack my family. Could you help that some patrols who pass there? Nobody even bothered. Nobody minded me at all.